Ladies, gentlemen, one and all, welcome to the install guide for Unification version 6.9.25. The patch has long since been released, so I believe it is about time that I updated my install guide, which currently links to 6.9. Now, of course, for Unification 6.9.25, you are required to have 6.9. So, if you already have 6.9, then feel free to skip directly to the patching stage of this video. Some things to note. This will go a little bit slower, I'll talk a little bit more slowly, so that people who may not be quite as technologically adept still have a chance to actually keep up. If this bothers you, feel free to set the video speed to something a little bit faster, like, for example, 1.5 or even 2. It makes me sound kind of funny. Also, this video is chaptered, so you are able to skip to the part that you wish to see, if there is a specific part of the install process that you have difficulty with. I will also be covering both the installer version and the manual version of the ModDB version. So, what you see in front of you is the ModDB page for Unification. This can be found either via Google or you can search for it directly on ModDB. As of currently, as of recording, the Unification link is actually on the ModDB homepage. You can also look in the description, because I will have links to all the files that I'm about to tell you about. So, under Files, we have all the things that we need right here. Now please note, you do not need all of these necessarily. If you are doing the installer version, then you will need Unification version 6.9.0 installer part 1, Unification core files v6.9.0 part 2, Unification race mods v6.9.0 part 3, Unification music pack part 4, and Unification patch 6.9.1 plus 6.9.25 installer. That is for the full experience. If you do not wish to download the music pack, you are more than welcome to skip it. However, that is highly recommended. If you are going to do the manual installation, then you will need Unification core files v6.9.0 part 2, Unification race mods v6.9.0 part 3. Again, music pack is optional. You will also need the DAW mod manager v2.3.1, and you will need Unification patch 6.9.1 plus 6.9.25 manual installation. Something else that you will need if you are going to go for the manual install is some sort of file archiver, or file extraction software as I often call it. My chosen one is 7-zip. No particular reason why. that's just my preferred one. It is free, and you can see, of course, the address up here, and the link will be in the description, as always. Most people nowadays have what's called a 64-bit operating system. This means that the one that you will want to download is the top one. If for some reason you are still running Windows XP, then you will want the 32-bit. And here are all the files. Now, I have created a separate directory for this. That is simply for the ease of recording this install guide. For yourselves, you may very well end up with these files being in your downloads folder. And you are not necessarily going to have all the ones that I have here. The ones that you have will depend primarily on whether you are doing the install version or the manual version. So please do not be concerned if your folder does not look exactly like you see here. Now, I am going to cover the installer version first. So we will need Unification-v6.9.0-full.exe. Please do not be concerned if you do not have .exe at the end of this. That is a file extension, and I have my operating system set to show file extensions by default. You will not necessarily have that. You will also need unification-race-mods.7z and unification-core-mod.7z. Of course, I call them dashes, they are actually underscores. Talking is hard. Now, one thing to note, and a very important thing at that, is that you must make sure that these two files here, the race and core, are named exactly as they are here. If they are named anything different, then the installer will fail to detect them. So if, for example, you have a 1 in it like that, then delete and make sure that the naming convention is exactly as shown on screen. Also, best to check the file sizes. Sometimes downloads will indeed corrupt, so if your race mods, for example, is actually only 4 GB as opposed to 8.5, then you're going to have to unfortunately download it again, unless of course the download is still in progress. Now, let's run the installer, shall we? Now, I have my OS set to run this as administrator by default, but not all of you will have that. So, to ensure you run this as administrator, and to give it the best chance of succeeding, right-click on Unification-v6.9.0-full, and click Run as Administrator. User account control will pop up. You can't see that. It's just a black screen on OBS, but click Yes. Now, here is a license agreement. I'm sure we've all seen one of these before. But there is also a full credits list at the bottom. That is for 6.9. The 6.9.25 version, I believe, is in the Unification Discord, but don't quote me on that. So let's agree to the license agreement. Okay, today it has actually detected the destination folder. It does not always do this. Sometimes it will not detect your Dawn of War install. So just select your Dawn of War base folder, or Dawn of War Soulstorm base folder. If it doesn't. Mine is the Steam version, so you're going to have a path very similar to this. But for the CD version, then obviously it will be wherever you have installed it to. Let's click Next. So, we want to install both of these, really. I am doing this on a clean install of Soulstorm, so I do not actually have the mod manager. Therefore, it is best that I download and install it here. Let's install. What it is now going to do, it is now going to extract both the core mod and the race mods archives. This can take a while. Do not be concerned if it stays at 0% for quite some time. That is perfectly normal. As you can see, it's now moving. The speed at which it extracts this is very much dependent on your hard drive, and whether you are running it off the same drive, and things like that. So for example, I have a solid state drive, which means that mine is going to be slightly faster than perhaps a standard mechanical drive, like a 4 terabyte or something. Right, I am going to let this install. You don't need to see all of this, it's literally just a progress bar. I would say something witty here, but quite frankly, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. So I'll be back in a moment. And now, the install is completed, or at least the base version of the install. For we still have both the music and the patch to go. So, you can see up here it says completed. So let's close that and move on to music. Now, music itself is pretty much the same process, except for the fact that the installer executable is stored in a 7-zip file. I presume to try and bring down the file size somewhat. So, in order to do that, as long as you have installed 7-zip, then you can just right-click on it, go to 7-zip, go to extract here, which will, well, as it states, extract the executable into this specific folder. This might take a minute or two. Again, it's going to very much depend on your hard drive speed. There are a few other things as well, like if the disk is being used in the background by something like Steam updating a game, or various other computery things. But, hey-ho, what can you do, really? 3, 2, 1, 0! Woo! That's now extracted. So let's run Unification-v6.9.0-music.exe. It might take a minute to come up. Also, I would recommend running this in Administrator as well. Like I said, I've got mine set to run as an administrator by default. You may have to right-click and then click on it. Click Run as Administrator. Say yes to the prompt. And then, ironically, I'm going to immediately... Oh, this doesn't have music. Okay, that's even more ironic. Well, here we are, the license agreement again. Let's agree to it. It has once again actually detected my Steam install. I'm quite happy with that. I wonder if that's because I've recorded this about 5 times already. I keep screwing up the recordings. So, yeah, just set your path, and then complete it, and then close. And there you go. That's your music done. So we now have the base 6.9.0 installed into our Soulstorm folder here on the right. So there we go, Unification bug fix. So if we have a look inside, there we go. That's all the 6.9 stuff, I do believe. I don't see anything missing. Well, we'll find out when we run it later. You'll also have your mod manager there, which is a very important thing because that's how you're going to be running the mod. And you will also have Unification bug fix module and Unification new races .module. We will get to these later. And of course there is an uninstaller there should you wish to uninstall it, though I find it easier to just click use control and then click on everything that is Unification related and then just hit delete. That's a much easier way to uninstall it for me. Alright, let's patch this, shall we? So, as we are doing the installer method, let's use the patch installer. Again, run this as administrator, so right click, run as administrator. There we go. Toggle the music again, because I don't want that drowning me out. Accept the license agreement. The path is still indeed correct. And that should bring us up to date once everything is extracted. Huzzah! So, that is now the mod installed. So, if we run the DAO mod manager, always run the mod manager as administrator. There we go. That's the mod installed. Now, and this is what the final result looks like. This is the Unification bug fix folder with the patch installed. Now, if your folder does not look like this, then something has gone wrong somewhere along the line. And that is, of course, going to require fixing. So, if, for example, you are missing, say, Inquisition Demon Hunt, just imagine that's not there, then you can manually apply it. That will be covered slightly later. Also note that you do not need the Unification Configurator 1.0.2 anymore. The 1.0.3 version has indeed superseded it, and has the very threatening 666 kilobytes in file size. How fun. So with the installer version covered, it's time to cover the manual installation. For those who have been either having trouble with the installer for whatever reason, or for those who simply do not wish to install it that way. Now, for this you are going to need 4 files. Technically 5, but still. You are going to need Unification race mods, you're going to need Unification core mod, you are going to need Unification music.exe. Unfortunately, there is not a manual version of that. So you will indeed have to rely on the installer for that one. And you will need the Unification v6.9.1-6.9.25 combined patch.7z. And of course you will need DAO Mod Manager. I say technically because that's not part of the Unification install, that's just kind of important. Move all of these, as you just saw me doing, over to your Dawn of War Soulstorm folder. Again, the speed of this is going to very much depend on your hard drive. Mine seems to luckily be going relatively quickly today. This is pretty good because yesterday when I attempted to record this, it was going at 5 megabits per second, and yet today it's decided to do it at 134 on average. So I'm not entirely sure what was wrong yesterday. Maybe I was doing an update in the background, I don't know. There we go, Race Mods has popped in. So there's the core mod. Now keep in mind, until this is actually done, the files themselves are not usable. So yeah, please don't start jumping ahead and trying to do things now. Wait until this is 100% complete. Come on, computer, you can do it. Just go a little bit faster. Blessing of the Omnissiah be upon you. Oh, there we go. As soon as I mentioned the Omnissiah, clearly with us today, or the Void Dragon, depending on your perspective. Anyway. So, yeah, these are all now in this folder, scattered about. So, this is the point where we are most definitely going to need 7-zip, if you hadn't already used it for something else. Because we are going to have to do the same process here that we did for the music 7-zip for the installer version. So we are going to have to right-click on Unification Core Mod, go to 7-zip, and click Extract here. Do not use any of the other variants here. Always use Extract here. That's the one with the best chance of success and the least chance of putting it in some random additional file. If you create a folder called Unification Core Mod, the thing will not work. So you need to make sure that you use Extract here. Now obviously this is a rather large file, so this may take quite some time. So much time, in fact, that it's actually having difficulty calculating how much time it's going to take. There we go. It's going to take 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 16, 15, 14, 13. Yeah, this is a rather large amount of stuff. As you can see here, the total size is approximately 13, about 13 gig, I think, in total. Which is odd, because the compression ratio is 40. I don't know. But either way, however big it is, yes, this might take a while. So I am going to pause the video while this extracts. There we go, it's practically done now. And as soon as that progress bar reaches 100%, the thing will close on its own. And it will have deposited Unification New Races module, unification bug fix.module, and unification bug fix, the folder, all into your Soulstorm folder. Now, of course, this is not the complete thing. This is all you will have at this point. You will not have any of the race SGAs. So, you will have to do the exact same thing with race mods. Right click, 7-zip, and extract here. Now, I expect that this one will probably take a little bit longer, given the difference in file size between core mod and race mods. Although the total size showing here is actually less than the core mod. So I suspect that core mod is just better compressed than race mods is. I'm not entirely sure on that one. File compression is not something I've ever really looked into in terms of its exact inner workings. But yes, I'm just going to allow that to go. And I'm going to pause the recording again quickly. Because I don't really think you want to watch a progress bar, do you? This video is already long enough. There we go, another 10 seconds left on that. That one did not actually take as long, so that's quite nice. So that should have deposited in the Unification bug fix folder all of the race SGAs. SGAs, for those wondering, it's just a file type used by Dawn of War. Right, so that is the base bit done. We, of course, because there is no manual version of the music installer to my knowledge, we do have to run the music again. So let's run that. Eventually, when user account control decides it wants to actually ask me about it. Yes, there we go. So, I agree. Direct to Soulstorm folder. That'll extract. Close. And there we go. That's base 6.9.0 installed manually. For the patch, we do exactly the same thing as we have done with core mod and race mods. Right click on it, 7-zip, extract files, here, extract here. Yes, so you will get this. It's basically just saying, we are going to overwrite existing files. Would you like to let us? Now, ideally, because it is a patch, you would say yes to all. Because that is going to be updating the existing files with new stuff. Which is always nice. And that is a very quick thing indeed. So, that should now be everything. Yep, there we go. That all looks good to me. Now, obviously, the movies isn't there because when doing things manually, it will not copy the movies folder. If you wish to copy the movies folder, you can do so. If you go to DXP2, there's your movies folder, so just do select it, do Control-C, go back, Unification Bug Fix, Control-V, and that will bring over all the movies for the campaign. Of course, that step is optional. Now we need to install the mod manager. This is even easier. We literally just open up the zip that we downloaded, move DAO mod manager v2.3.1.0 to the Soulstorm folder, and there you go. Problem sorted. So that's everything. Let's open up DAO mod manager just to make sure that it has indeed applied properly. Now, at any point in this install procedure, you may get this. Yeah, just click more info, then click run anyway. It's fine. It's just Windows being pedantic because it doesn't have a specific signature on the executable. And there we go. That's the mod manager. It looks fine to me. So, all is well. Now, let's move on to some extra bits. And just a quick troubleshooting thing. Oh no, the Inquisition Demon Hunt thing isn't there. I totally haven't just moved it into my desktop to set this up. But fear not, for we can fix this. If you are missing any of the race SGAs, then you can simply open this and bring in the stuff that you're missing. So, let's right-click on a Unification Race Mods, go to 7-zip, open Archive, and that will bring us to here. If we double-click Unification Bug Fix, then we can see Inquisition Demon Hunt is indeed there. So we can just click and drag that into the folder. And that will copy that one individual thing. And of course, just do that for any that you are missing. The same thing applies if you are missing any of the core mods things. However, where you put that will, of course, depend on what file is missing. If you are missing Unification New Races module, then you will put it in your base Soulstorm folder. If, for some reason, the file sizes are off, or it's refusing to extract a single file, what you can do is you can use the test command up here. That will test your archive for any major issues. This is, of course, going to take quite some time. And quite frankly, I'm not going to wait around, so I'm going to cancel it, but eventually it will come up and say either there was corruption found, or all your files are fine. After you are done with the manual installer, I would highly recommend deleting all of the stuff that you have actually used to install, because all that does is take up space. Now, if you are concerned that something might be wrong and you want to test it first, then you can obviously move it to another folder, but leaving it in here is kind of pointless and just takes up space. That is kind of why I copied it over, so I still have a copy of it should I need to reinstall anything. In fact, I'm technically still using the copies that I downloaded last year to do the install guide for 6.9. So, yes, that's kind of useful to have around, to be honest. Another thing of note is with the DAO mod manager. Now, for the mod manager itself, it has an option to remove fog, which requires admin mode. So, my recommendation would be to ensure that you always run the mod manager in admin mode. How do you do this? Well, you can either right-click on the mod manager itself in your Soulstorm folder and click Run as Administrator, or you can do it the way I do it. which is to right-click on the mod manager, go to Properties, go to Compatibility, and set this tick box here. Run this program as an administrator. Then click OK or Apply. Or both. That will ensure that this will always run as an administrator, and you don't have to bother with right-clicking it and setting Run as Administrator. What I also do is I right-click on Mod Manager, send to Desktop Create Shortcut. That, of course, puts a shortcut on your desktop that will always run as administrator. Just a little time-saving thing. Something to note. Dawn of War is a very, very old game on a very old engine. The engine itself actually predates Dawn of War by several years. It was originally used for the game called Impossible Creatures, which came out in 2003. However, the engine itself was worked on before that, and I don't think a specific date has been set, but it's estimated that it could have been worked on as early as 1998. Now, what date it actually started is kind of irrelevant. What matters is that it is a 32-bit engine. This means that it can only see 2 GB of RAM with LAA off, and 4 GB with LAA on 64-bit operating systems. LAA, or Large Address Aware as some of you may know it, is something that can be applied directly to Soulstorm via the Dawn of War mod manager. As long as you are running it in admin mode, hit the toggle LAA button, and this text here will go green. Unification itself is a very memory-intensive mod, especially with certain factions, which either have quite a lot of content or some very high-quality FX. Therefore, having LAA on is not optional. You must have this enabled. Aside from LAA, there are a couple of extra things in the mod manager that would be kind of important to mention. Firstly, yes, you can use mod manager to switch between several different mods. If you happen to have other mods, like say Dawn of War Pro, Dawn of War Redux, or Crucible installed, then you can indeed switch between them by selecting them from this menu on the left. Now, for Unification itself, whether you run Unification Bug Fix or Unification New Races, as long as you're patched to version 6.9.25, is only relevant when you're dealing with multiplayer, because both pretty much do the same thing at this point. Bug Fix is basically depreciated and will eventually be merged into New Races, I imagine. I personally use New Races, but hey ho. So yes, you can select the mod you want from the menu on the left. The other options of note here, you have Dev. Now, Dev mode is mainly a troubleshooting option. For example, if you were to get a fatal scar error in-game, you can tick this, and then it will create a log, a scar log, in the log files folder that you can sort of check just to see what caused the fatal scar error. Also, it's useful if you are using an auto-exec file. Now, an auto-exec file, which you can find in the screenshots channel in the Unification Discord, it's in the pins, that basically allows you to bind certain commands to various key combinations. Like you might have seen during my unification videos, I sometimes remove the HUD completely, without actually typing in any console commands. That's done using an auto-exec and dev. Please note, if you do tick dev mode, it will stop you from playing multiplayer. So make sure you untick it before playing any multiplayer. No movies, obviously it disables the intro movies, so the Relic, the Iron Law, and all of that sort of stuff. Force high poly, when you zoom out to quite far away distances, the game will kind of reduce the polygons of the models to save on memory. Force high poly disables this, so they are always high polygons. This is a very bad idea for memory management, and I would recommend that you do not turn it on. High Affinity 6 is just wibbly-wobbly technical processor shenanigans. What it specifically does escapes me at this moment in time, but I'm fairly certain that is in the it's on the Unification wiki, which I will of course link in the description and in the pinned comment if I have comments on, which I won't. So yes, it'll be in the description. It helps some people, it doesn't help others, so you can always try putting it on, see if it helps. If it does, great. If it doesn't, drat. No big loss. Disable fog is a big one. That disables the, well, as it says, the map ambient fog, not the fog of war. It disables the white fog that appears when you zoom out too far, or when you move the camera to sort of look at a unit, like sort of as if you were on their level. Very useful, especially if you're going to be playing with big units. I find the vanilla camera is very constricting, so yeah, having that enabled is exceptionally useful in my book. But you do have to be running Mod Manager in admin mode in order to actually use it. Some other things of note: you can actually create profiles through this. If you go into the settings menu, if you are having trouble with creating a profile because for some reason the profile screen just doesn't work, I've had this crop up a few times in tech support, you can indeed do it that way. So just type in the name of your profile in new player name, then click create profile and select it from this list here under current player. I'm not going to create that profile, that would be silly. Also, in video, you have high-res textures. Now, that is also very bad for memory management, so I would suggest you turn that off. It does not actually affect as much as you think. The main texture affecting thing is going to be texture detail over here. High-res textures mainly affects banners and emblems. And there's some debate as to whether it actually affects the models themselves, but I personally don't notice all that much of a difference. Another thing of note is DirectX 8 cursor. Now, this is covered in FAQ 4, I think, in the Unification Discord. If you experience random stuttering in-game, then it might be a good idea to try DirectX 8 cursor, because NVIDIA being NVIDIA released a driver that majorly screwed over Dawn of War and caused that stuttering to occur. DirectX 8 cursor can actually stop that. Sometimes it stops it when you have DirectX 8 cursor on, sometimes it does the complete opposite, and I have no idea why. DAO is DAO. DAO is weird. One final thing to note in this section would be the screen resolution. I would highly recommend not going above 1080p. Like I said earlier, DAO is a very old game. It's a 32-bit game, and going above 1080p, or the higher you go, will increase the memory consumption. Going above 1080p seems to increase it exponentially. So 2K and 4K are... You're taking a massive risk with that. So if you find you are having frequent crashes and you are playing at 4K, try reducing it to 1080p. It might not look quite as nice on your monitor, but it's definitely going to save on the memory. So, is there anything else to mention? Ah, yes. One more thing to mention in this section. If we go to download mod here. Here is something called a larger fonts. That, if you are playing on certain screens, the text is very, very small. So a larger fonts will allow you to actually change the text sizes. So if you download that and then you go to settings and then fonts manager, you can edit things in there. It takes a lot of fiddling around, I'm afraid. There's not some sort of be-all end-all solution for that. It's going to depend purely on your monitor itself or the screen if you're using a laptop. And just be aware as well is that the UI is not going to change to suit the increased text size, so you might have text overlapping on the UI elements. And, of course, one final thing. Never, ever, 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 ever touch the Merge Mods button. If you touch the Merge Mods button, then your computer will explode. Okay, no, it won't explode, but you'll screw up your Unification installation if you go merging things. So please do not touch it under any circumstances. And now it is time to finally test. So, with my options enabled, let us click Unification New Races and Start Mod. Again, it does not matter too much as to whether you click Bug Fix or New Races, as long as you are using the same version as whoever you are trying to play with if you're playing multiplayer. And you are on version 0.25. If you are still on version 6.9.0, you will not have any of the new races if you use bug fix, so make sure you're on the patch. And as we can see, we have got into the game. We have Unification New Races 6.9.25 up in the upper left there, and if we do something very silly and go into the Army Painter, we should see we have all the different factions. Perfect. So, that is quite literally it. So, just upset YouTube there with a brief shot of the cultist model. But, yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, of course, there are things that can happen that is not covered by this specific tutorial, and I have gone on for quite some time. So, of course, there is always a place to go if you have any major issues. Well, there are two places specifically. The first place would be troubleshooting page on the Unification wiki. Now, this place has a lot of information on it, and covers pretty much everything from campaign to general to multiplayer to various other things. And for anything where you've used the merge button. Now, the majority of issues that we see in tech support are indeed RAM issues. So if you get an error message saying temp folder or dump file or anything like that, this is the place to go. Because if you click this link, then you will see, firstly, an explanation of exactly how RAM utilization works in DAO, and there is also a list of increasingly extreme things to do to try and prevent RAM crashes. Like, for example, Tier 0, some of the stuff that I explained earlier. Tier 1, recommended, not necessarily going to be needed if you're just playing campaign or something, but it is pretty recommended. And yes, all the way down to things like playing 8-player games in Unification, which, due to the way the RAM is, not really necessarily going to happen without some major tinkering. You can find the link to this in the Unification Discord. You can find it via Google, and you can find it in the description below. And secondly, there is the tech support section of the Unification Discord. For yes, there is indeed a room dedicated to tech support. Now, if you do choose this option, please note that if you post your thing in there, you will be got back to eventually. Just keep in mind that due to the nature of time zones and the fact that everyone who sort of helps out in tech support is indeed a volunteer, there may be a varying length of time for us to get back to you. And there is also the frequently asked questions section, which covers quite a lot of things. Like, a lot. Some of them are not tech related, some of them are sort of admin bits. Yeah, so there you go, there's your text size being too small. Adding unsupported races. All that sort of stuff is in there. So, yes, so those are several places where you can go to get assistance should any issues arise. And that is it. That's all I have to say for today. So, I hope this guide has been at least somewhat helpful. And, of course, hopefully you enjoy Unification. Once again, if you have had any issues, please head over to the Unification Discord to actually get some assistance or check the Troubleshooting Wiki. Please do not come to my Discord because I will not necessarily be able to assist you there. Please also note that the comments are indeed disabled on this video because despite me saying in the previous install guide that I will not be providing tech support via the comments section of the video, people were still requesting tech support via the comments section of the video. Reason I don't provide tech support via the comments is because it is very difficult. Often with tech support I will need pictures of things, and that is not possible in the YouTube comments section. So please head over to the Unification tech support bit in the Discord if you do have any issues you are not able to fix via the via troubleshooting. So that is it for today. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope this has been useful, and until next time, I have been Caldaris. Goodbye.